shocking Coco's silent heartbreak, the moment that changed everything after losing her title. In a world that celebrates victories, few people pause to understand the silence of defeat. When Coco Gauff walked off the court after losing her WTA Finals title defense in 2025, the stadium lights dimmed not just over the match, but over a chapter of her young, brilliant life. The crowd, still roaring moments ago, softened into an uneasy hush. Cameras captured Coco's stoic face as she packed her bag. No tears, no drama, only an expression that hinted at a storm brewing inside. It was a silence of heartbreak, the kind that cuts deeper than any scream could. The reigning champion, the girl who had conquered Grand Slams and global fame before her 22nd birthday, had fallen not just in score, but in spirit. And what followed was a transformation that would define her more than any trophy ever could. Broken Heart, the match that broke the magic. It was supposed to be her night. The 2025 WTA Finals. Coco's final battle to defend her crown, to remind the world why she was still the heart and pulse of women's tennis. She had fought through exhaustion, intense scrutiny, and whispers of doubt. Every swing, every serve, every sprint reflected the weight of a season that both crowned and crushed her. Across the net stood Aryna Sabalenka, fierce, unrelenting, a player who feeds on adrenaline and intimidation. For 2 hours, the court felt like a war zone. The rallies were brutal, the emotions raw. But as the final point slipped away, Sabalenka dropped her racket in triumph. Coco froze, the ball still echoing in her mind, and the reality sank in. She hadn't just lost a match. She had lost her title. Cloud with rain, the walk of silence. There was no outburst, no tears in public. Coco simply walked to the net, shook hands, and smiled, the kind of smile that hides pain too deep for words. The cameras zoomed in, hoping for drama, but found only grace. But grace can be deceiving. Behind that calm face, she was breaking. As she walked through the tunnel, past the cheering crowd, her mind replayed every missed shot, every decision that could have changed the outcome. Reporters later described the moment as eerily quiet. Even her team, her parents, her coach, her trainer, sensed that something inside her had shifted. It wasn't the loss, her coach later said. It was what the loss represented. She had carried the pressure of a champion all year, and for the first time, she let herself feel it. Crescent moon behind closed doors. In the hours after the final, Coco disappeared from public view. No interviews, no social media posts. For days, fans wondered where she was. It turned out she had gone back home to Delray Beach, Florida, her sanctuary, where tennis first began for her as a child. Away from the cameras, she sat in her backyard under the stars, replaying the season in her head, the travel, the exhaustion, the endless expectations. She wasn't just tired physically. She was emotionally drained. For years, Coco had been everyone's hope. The next Serena, the voice of Gen Z, the icon of courage. But who was she when the applause stopped? Her father, Corey Gauff, recalled later. That night, she didn't want to talk about tennis. She wanted to talk about herself, about identity, purpose, pressure. It wasn't a sports conversation. It was about life. Rose, the weight of greatness. Few realized the burden of greatness at a young age. At 21, Coco had already achieved what most players dream of: Grand Slam champion, multimillionaire, and global role model. But with fame came expectation. Every loss felt magnified, every mistake dissected. The same crowd that cheered her rise was now demanding more. Why didn't she win? What's wrong with her form? Has the magic faded? The truth was far simpler and far more human. Coco was still learning how to carry success. When she finally addressed her fans weeks later, her message was raw and real. Sometimes it's not about losing a match. It's about losing a part of yourself to the pressure. I forgot how to just play for me. And that's what I'm learning again. It wasn't a quote crafted by PR teams. It was a confession. Water waved the social media storm. As her statement spread online, fans flooded social media with messages of support. Celebrities, athletes, and even rivals sent love. Hashtags like hashtag We Stand With Coco and hashtag Heart of a Champion began trending worldwide. But not everyone was kind. Critics argued that Coco was too emotional, that she should toughen up. Some even claimed she was overreacting to a simple loss. What they didn't understand was that this wasn't about a scoreboard. It was about self-worth. Coco's silence, that brief disappearance after a defeat, wasn't weakness. It was strength disguised as stillness. She chose to heal, to breathe, to rediscover why she loved the sport in the first place. And in doing so, she inspired millions who faced their own invisible battles. Dove, redemption, and reflection. 3 weeks after her heartbreak, Coco returned to practice, not in a glamorous stadium, but on the cracked courts of her childhood club, surrounded by kids who once idolized her. Witnesses said she laughed more that day than she had all year. She hit balls not for competition, but for joy. I realized that somewhere along the way, I stopped playing to win and started playing to not lose, she admitted later. That's not who I am. I want to love this game again. That statement became the heartbeat of her comeback philosophy. For the first time, Coco wasn't chasing trophies. She was chasing peace. Performing art's the moment that changed everything. Every athlete has a defining moment, one that shifts the way they see the world. Fire reborn. When Coco finally returned to competitive play months later, something was different. Her game looked lighter, freer. Her laughter returned to press conferences. Her aura was no longer that of a player trying to prove something, but one who had found something. Even her rivals noticed. IGA Swiatek, who had often faced Coco in tight duels, said, "She's calm now, more dangerous than ever." Indeed, Coco's heartbreak had turned into fuel. Her loss became her liberation. Sunflower lessons from the silence. Every great athlete has a breaking point, but not everyone transforms it into purpose. Coco did. Her story is more than a tale of winning or losing. It's a mirror for anyone who has ever felt crushed by expectations. She showed the world that success isn't defined by trophies but by truth, because sometimes the most powerful comeback begins the moment you stop pretending you're okay. Sunrise Epilogue. The girl who found herself again. Months later, in a reflective interview with Tennis World magazine, Coco smiled when asked about that fateful night she lost her title. "That was the moment I realized that my greatest victory wouldn't come from holding a trophy," she said softly. "It would come from holding myself together when everything fell apart." And with that, Coco Gauff, the once broken champion, reclaimed something far greater than gold or glory. She reclaimed herself. Tennis final thought. Coco's silent heartbreak was not an ending. It was an awakening, a moment where the echoes of defeat transformed into the rhythm of rebirth. And as the world watched her rise again, one truth became clear. Sometimes, losing everything isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the one that finally matters. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.